woman with an outsized personality, and in a sense, a Jane of all trades, but in a positive way. Meet Dr. Lartey.
My name is Lartey. I'm a medical doctor and an entrepreneur. I'm also a part-time cook, and then I'm a fashionista. I love fashion, and well, that's mostly.
And for me, who's privileged to know you, can I say that all of the things that you mentioned you do, I know you do them so well. So thank you so much for making time to join me.
Thank you for having me, Baba. Thank you so much.
The pleasure is all mine.
Mental health is one of the most important things to me. It's up there on my list because I have had a personal experience with mental health. I've had close family members who have had issues with mental health, who have had to deal with mental health. And because of my experience as a medic as well, I've seen how important mental health is in medicine in general and in life. So mental health is very dear to my heart. Everybody that knows me knows that I am a huge mental health advocate especially for women in this country. Yeah. Okay. So for as long as I can remember, I've had a passion for mental health. I've had a love for mental health because I realized that people who are supposedly termed as being mentally ill are shunned by society. They are not embraced. They are not loved as much as everybody. And I had a close family member growing up who had been tagged in that manner by society. So I remember growing up, I was really feisty, I was a defender, I was young as maybe 10 or 12 years old. So this journey with mental health started very early, and then it ended up being me experiencing it as an adult as well, as a young adult as well. So I've placed importance of on the mental health from a very young age, from when I was a pre-teenager maybe, yes.
Wow.
So growing up, I realized I was always different from everybody else. The way I handled situations and events was a little bit different. Things affected me differently than everybody else. Things would make me sadder than what society would suppose should make me sad, or things would make me more melancholic. I realized that I was more empathetic towards people's suffering and people's situation more than everybody else. But it was in my late teens, maybe when I was about around 19 years, when I was in my first year of university, that I actually started paying attention to the fact that I was a little different, that okay, I have to put it down there, but I've had issues with dealing with depression in the past. And of course, because it's a continuous struggle, you don't just say, I dealt with depression before. It happens every day. But I realized this when I was in my late teens, around 19 years, when I was in first year of university, and then that was when the whole thing started, yes. Right. So in first year of university, I wanted to do medicine, so I went to apply for biological science in Legon, and then we did a year of the biological science. We were supposed to be picked for medical school after that year, and I remember that I had issues with my grade because, well, it's a long story, but long story short, I didn't make it into medical school. And I remember that I was so sad. And at that time, it was hard for me to figure out, but I knew what I was feeling was different from being sad. Being sad is you're a little sad, you're able to pick yourself up, and then you're able to move on. But then I realized that, I couldn't wake up from bed. I would cry all the time. I was refusing food. I was refusing even water. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want any interaction with people. So I realized that at that time, and it went on for weeks, I didn't want to leave home. I didn't want to go back to school anymore. In fact, I knew I didn't want to live anymore at that time. So that was when I knew that it was different from my usual sadness that I always feel when it comes to situations that I experience.
Wow.
At that time, I didn't realize it was depression. I just knew that there was something wrong with me that I couldn't describe and understand. I knew it was more than sadness. I knew it was something I was feeling that wasn't normal, because I was feeling like then I shouldn't live anymore at that time. But I didn't place, at that time, I mean, I didn't know it was depression. I couldn't place like a name for it, but I knew it was different from what I usually feel.
You were just going through.
I remember at that time, my mom's little sister, Auntie Betty, may her soul rest in peace, she was a person that I sort of brought the subject up to, that this was how I was feeling. But then it's a very hard thing to talk about. I mean, I didn't even know that I should have spoken with somebody about it. So it was just me dealing with something that was so unusual for me. At that time, I didn't even know that it was something that I should have spoken with anyone about. I thought, chin up, man up, and then keep going. I mean, deal with it. You're not the only one who didn't make it into medical school.
That's it.
Yes, I have had several, countless experiences. I cannot count them. But when I realized that feeling that I had, then it became clearer to me. So I was able to identify more and more of those episodes. And when I started feeling that, I realized that it became worse and worse, and it became closer in between, like how I felt. That feeling became worse and worse for me. And it was more and more, I mean, it became worse, actually. As the years went by, it became much, 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 much worse. So initially, knowing the kind of society that we live in, people would say, "Love, this is spiritual, have you prayed?" And I pray. So, I mean, am I not God's child? Why am I feeling this way and then my friends are not? And then, and I used to pray. There were days when I would stay up late at night praying. I used to fast because I didn't like how I was feeling. And it made me, I didn't like how that was different, and that these things were affecting me, that I didn't want to live anymore, that I went further to do certain things that I thought would help me cope with it. But then initially, I didn't think that my family, I'm quite close with my dad. So the first person who learned about this thing was my father, who understood me pretty well. But it took me a while to be able to open up to him, because I thought he would judge me and say, "My daughter, what do you need? You don't need anything. You have everything, so why are you sad?" But my dad understood me, because he had also dealt, apparently I didn't know, with it in the past. So at that time, he was able to confess to me and say, and then he understood me. But then the rest of society, friends they try to understand, but they don't understand, because people would say, a popular statement people would make is that, but you're not hungry, you're beautiful, you're a medical doctor, you have your degree, and you are not poor, so why are you sad? But I think it was up to me to explain further to them that this thing is more than money. It's not more about beauty, it's an illness. It took me years to get to the point where I would say that this thing is just like someone who lives with diabetes and hypertension, someone who has malaria. This thing is an illness. It took me a while, but then when I was able to identify it, I was able to explain. It's because of the culture and the system that we live in. It's not their fault, you understand. From the time they are children, they are told that these things are not normal, these things are spiritual. So someone is doing this to you, or you are not praying enough. But then it took me a while to be able to understand it, and then I became less angry with people for not understanding me. And then I was more patient with explaining my situation with them. And then I realized that if you've never had experience with what I'm talking about, it's difficult to understand it. But then when you talk about it, you realize that people actually have experience with it and they don't even know what it is.
They're emotionally illiterate.
They're emotionally illiterate. So it's up to you to be patient to explain these things with them. And I've actually, from my experiences and sorry, I have a bit of a cold, so my voice, from my experiences with dealing with people and initially I used to be angry, and then I'll brush people off, and then I'll tell people off. But then when I became patient and then had time to explain to people more, I realized that I've been able to help a lot of people who are also going through the same situation that I was before. Yeah.
Wow, now this is lots of good insight. Right? You explained so much for us. And so I'm happy that I mean, having you here, there's an area of maybe not confusion, but it would be great to bring some clarity to it. I've heard people describe depression as an absence of happiness or a loss of happiness. Now, with my knowledge and my work, I know what I think. But for the benefit of the everyday person, the person who's going through depression, would you, with your experiences, describe depression as a loss of happiness, or is there a lot more to it that we should be considering?
We all feel sadness, so we know how sadness feels like. And one of the biggest questions that I have to address when I'm talking to people about mental health and depression especially is this question that, but we all get sad, so I mean, what's the point? Why is yours different? And so depression is not sadness. We all know how sadness feels like. Depression is not even the next step after sadness. For issues to affect you so much that you feel like you shouldn't live anymore. Life is beautiful, life is sweet. For anyone to feel or think that, like, if I'm not alive, this will go away, or I wouldn't feel this pain anymore. It's more than depression. It's more than sadness, sorry. So, because I have experience with depression as a patient, I'll call myself, because I have patients as well in other things, and as a medic, depression, you feel depression physically. So, you feel sick physically. So it's psychogenic, obviously, it's in the brain, obviously, but you can feel depression as physical sickness. You can feel headaches, you can feel tummy upset, you feel nausea, and sadness doesn't make you feel those things. Sadness does not make you feel those things. I think it's about time people realize that people who are saying they are depressed, more or less, are not feeling just sadness. They are feeling something maybe 10 or 20 times worse than sadness. So if you can sit down and then think about the sad experiences that you have personally experienced, and then multiply them by 20 times, the pain that you felt and all those things, and multiply them by 20 times, maybe then you can understand what depression is.
Love, I can't tell you what an honor it is to have you here with me, spending your time, and for your support. It's so good to have you here. And I'm curious, apart from us being friends, what was the driving force? What was the main reason why you decided to participate in this project, to join me for this conversation?
Yes, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. And earlier I spoke about my passion for mental health, because I've had a lot of close friends who, and myself of course, who have been through the same thing, and it was so difficult dealing with it because of the kind of society we live in. We are not ready to accept that mental health is actually it's actually there, you know. So this was a huge opportunity and platform for me to come and share my experiences, and then to talk to people about mental health. I am an advocate. I love the topic mental health, and so I mean, you didn't need to ask twice at all.
Wow, and you have spoken up. Yes. Thank you so much for that. Would you say that your training or your medical background, or your training in medical school has, contributed to the insight that you have and the approach that you have towards mental health? So the approach towards your experiences, and you're helping other people survive their experiences.
Of course. Medical school was an eye-opener in terms of mental health, because psychiatry is actually a major course. We do practical in psychiatry, and then it's a long, it's a whole course in medical school. So I remember every once in a while when we are in class and our lecturers are talking, then something that happens, they say something that happened to me, and I'm like, oh, so this was what this was. This is the name for this, So medical school played a huge role in how I perceive mental health today, and it also, because of my experiences, it also plays a huge role in how I deal with my patients as well.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. So it heightens your empathy.
It heightened my empathy even more. Yes.
Wow. understanding is a great, or being in a place where you understand something is a great place to be, because it changes everything. It changes your approach. And
yes, so if I've had this opportunity to be further educated, I don't expect someone who doesn't understand it to get it like how I do. Yeah.
Wow. And my final question, what do you consider your most important coping tool today? So what gets you by? What gets you through every difficult episode, time after time? What's the most important coping tool for you today?
Okay, so I think I spoke about showing up, being there earlier, but also speaking to people who understand you. You need to find that person who gets you, who will never judge you, who just listen. It's really important. It's very, very important. That person to me is my dad, because he understands me more. And then every time I talk to him afterwards, I feel so much better. Also, coping, apart from speaking with someone who understands you, who loves you, you need to speak with a professional. And then don't be by yourself. It only makes it worse. It's difficult when at that time you don't want to talk to anybody, you don't want to see anybody, but it's the best thing that you can do for yourself. Go out there, go and sit somewhere, read a book, listen to music, go to the beach, do something you love, but don't be inside by yourself.
So the value of social support cannot be overemphasized.
It cannot be overemphasized. It's the most important thing. It's what has helped me deal with what I have been through most. And I'm lucky that I have people who could listen to me and then understand my experiences and be empathetic towards my experiences and just listen to me and not judge me. Not judge me. I want to say that again. Someone who does not judge you, who doesn't tell you that what you are experiencing is going to go away. It's nothing. You're just sad. You don't need it. It's spiritual. You should pray. Someone who just listens to you and understands you and doesn't judge you.
Yes, empathy is our lifeline.
Yeah.
Now, before we let you go, do you have anything to leave with us? Do you have a message to leave with us? Those of us who are in the studio today, everybody who's listening to you, and everybody who wants to share this video with other people who will find it beneficial. Do you have any message to leave with them?
Yes, of course. Mental health is real. 1 out of 4 people at every point in their life, any point in their life, will suffer from a major mental health episode. So it's a big thing. It can happen to you, it can happen to your friend, it can happen to your sister, it can happen to your parents. I say that we should be more empathetic towards our friends who suffer from mental health issues, because some of the people who walk on the streets who we mark as being mad were once like us. Maybe they have the support that we had or we are looking for, maybe they wouldn't be there. So support for mental health, people who are dealing with mental health, is one of the most important things. And then the fact that you shouldn't judge people who come and talk to you, come and explain to you that they have an issue with mental health. Also, I feel like mental health is an issue, it's a subject that is overlooked by our government as well, and we need to invest more in the mental health bill. I think it's been in Parliament, they've been deliberating on it for years and years, and I feel like we should push for it, because every one of us at a point in our lives may suffer from a mental health episode. It's not just the people that are walking on the streets who we say are crazy or mad.
Dr. Lartey, it's been a pleasure having you here with us. Thank you so much, and I look forward to doing more work with you in the area of mental health or in any other area that will bring meaningful, that will be, a great source of knowledge and encouragement and comfort to people.
Baba, thank you so much for having me on your show to talk about my own experiences with mental health. I so appreciate it. I hope I come back again to talk about something else. Yeah.
Thank you.